Well, good morning, everybody. First of all, sorry I'm a little bit later than I normally am today. I got in pretty late last night, around 3:30, but there's something I've noticed here just flying across the country, and that is that Charlotte's airport is becoming one of the busiest airports. I don't know what you all think, but thankfully I had a little bit of a delay last night in Charlotte because I was running between gates to make my flight back to Chicago. All right, well, made it home, and I'm glad to be with you again this morning here. But the map we've been kind of talking over is our last 72 hours of total accumulated snowfall. Now, this map is going to look, I'll be honest with you, amazing across the West as we go forward. The snows that are coming into the Sierra Nevada and the Cascades and Northern Rockies, even the Central Rockies, is exactly what I want to see. But what we're looking at here is just the snow from that last system that rolled through so very, very quickly, plus the lake effect that followed it. Now, thinking about this, I'm going to take you to a website I go to all the time, but I want to make sure you know where it is, just in case you ever want to use it. It's worldview.earthdata.nasa.gov. Okay, worldview.earthdata.nasa.gov. In fact, if you just Google Worldview NASA, you'll find it. Now, remember a while ago we were talking about two different versions of MODIS, and we had one called that was on the platform called Terra, one on the platform called Aqua. And Aqua comes over in the afternoon, Terra in the morning. Now, I thought that was neat to show you yesterday on the 28th of February, snow across, like, for example, the Midwest. If I just kind of zoom in here, the morning pass from Terra, for example, could see this snow swath in Illinois, Missouri, stretching back into Kansas, and also you can see this here. But remember, yesterday, we made a pretty quick turnaround in terms of temperatures in the afternoon and a lot of sunshine. And so the afternoon pass, a lot of that snow is gone. Look at that. That's just morning to afternoon. We watch that snow just get eroded away here. I think it's actually pretty fascinating to look, especially at this stripe right in through here that came out on that frontal boundary that ripped through. It was also neat to kind of slide over to the Front Range. So this is, of course, in Colorado, and you can see the heavy snows that were in through this area of the high plains of Colorado. That was in the morning, completely gone by the afternoon. Oh, we'll save a few areas right in through here, but pretty neat to see that. The other thing I really wanted to be able to look at with these high-resolution satellites are some of the burn scars. Now, the morning pass, we had some high thin cirrus over the top of where we saw the wildfire acreage that was burned here. If you look in the afternoon, you can see it again, but it's still kind of tucked away underneath some of that cloud. You can use other satellites as well. So click on the top one here, a little bit later in the day, pass, and then we have NOAA's VERS. Again, we can see it here. And if we zoom back out, I just want to show you there are some other areas like up here in parts of Nebraska as well. You can see the burn scar from that event we looked at earlier in the week. So I just wanted to show you just a great resource that you can take advantage of and use on your own. And again, I will be watching these mountains very carefully as we go forward, just for the snow that's expected to come in there. Okay, next I want to walk you through some precipitation maps. And the first one is going to be what we've seen so far in the month of February. So these are ranks. We're going to look at this again tomorrow, a little different way. But what you've got here is precipitation ranks by climate district. And one of the important things to do here is to understand that when you look at the 30-day time period, it may not reflect what we call flash drought. And we can have flash drought at any time of the year. It happens when temperatures crank up and winds crank up, evaporation rates are high. And I want to stress that there are areas in Nebraska coming down through the plains that experienced that recently. Now, we have been very dry in the central western Corn Belt, the Northeast, parts of North Carolina, and down across the Gulf Coast as well with this pattern as it's moved through. And that's not to ignore the very dry conditions we continue to endure here in the upper Midwest and Great Lakes states throughout this kind of February timeframe. But we're going to question the upcoming pattern as to whether or not it can begin to work against these areas. So we'll get to that in a second, but take a look. Here is the month of February ranks. This is the last 30 days as a percent of normal. So just another way to look at this. Now remember, there's always a one-day quality control on this. So this goes through yesterday morning at 7 a.m. And remember, while you see such wet conditions in through here, remember how fast we can deplete moisture in the high plains with strong winds and warm temperatures. Now, going from there, let's step this down to the last 2 weeks. And now we can start to see the very dry and also a region that's been very, very warm across the south these last couple of weeks and what it's done. Now, that's not to ignore Montana, parts of Minnesota or the Northeast, and certainly not in the Southwest. But over the last 7 days, this is what you've got. You see, during those last 7 days, very limited chances of precipitation across broad swaths of the United States. And when you combine that with how warm things got, those evaporation rates increased and we saw our topsoil moisture getting zapped. And what's different about this year, especially in the northern plains and parts of the western plains, is that we didn't have any sort of deep lasting snowpack from winter. And you just saw that every little bit of snow that comes through melts pretty quickly. So this is our latest 10 centimeter soil moisture data. And it's just revealing where this month of February has allowed for the top 4 inches to really get zapped of their moisture. So are we going to be seeing improvements in this broad swath of the country and down here along the Gulf Coast with this upcoming pattern? That's a question we need to get in and try to answer. The problem is that already we're going back into that same setup. You see the temperatures compared to 24 hours ago. Remember yesterday we had a 50-degree drop in temperatures in places here? Well, now they've already started to rebound. Some places are warmer now. Yesterday, 20, 30, and there's a couple places up here in Alberta that are up 50 degrees over what they were yesterday. Just mind-boggling numbers here just to watch these temperatures change. But meanwhile, much of the east is dealing with a lot of cold conditions, but it's relatively brief. Now, on satellite this morning, you can actually see the lake effect snow coming off here. And you can even see some of the little cloud streets that roll out here off of the Atlantic. But what I'm going to be watching is this guy right there. That's the next system. It's curling up on the northern edge of the subtropical jet, which is here, and it's spinning up pretty quickly. And it's going to be a system that rolls along the south and into the southeast, really beginning to tap into moisture as it approaches the southeast. Now, in addition to that, you can see this frontal boundary that's swiping into the northwest on infrared. And that system, it's kind of amazing to look at this, is way up here in Alaska. So yesterday as the sun was out, that's the low that's curling up, that's got the jet stream to the south of it, that's hitting British Columbia and Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. But I also wanted to show you this because here we are just, we're less than a month, of course, from the equinox. And look how far north the sun's light has already made it. So all of Alaska is seeing sun, of course, right now, and we're about to wake the sun up on the North Pole very, very soon and leave it up for the next 6 months as we approach that time frame. So just a neat low to kind of take a close look at here. Now, with all that as the setup, it's going to be a windy day across much of North America. But the only spot that misses out on this is this big area under the higher pressure as the front has cleared. Look at that front right there. But already in the plains, winds are coming back out of the south. They're coming off the mountains here in downslope. And then if you come to the west, there's already high wind watches and advisories and high wind warnings, because around the deeper low here, we can just see how strong these winds are racing across this part of the U.S. So that's why you get this map. So what we have here, several shades of these kind of warmer colors. These shades represent high wind watches and high wind advisories and high wind warnings. This is blizzard warning. This is winter storm warning, flood watches up here around the Puget Sound, and then winter storm warnings that stretch into the Northern Rockies. Yeah, we've got at least, I think there's actually 3 more systems lined up for the west coming through. And just as quickly as we saw that system roll through, we're already back into red flag warnings here in parts of the western Corn Belt. And there is a winter weather advisory out for Texas, this section of Texas, as that low curls its way out. Now, before I get into the details of that, let's go have a look at the upper level pattern. And we just got to keep watching this evolve. So here we go. As we play through Thursday into Friday and eventually into Saturday, there's our deep western trough. That is the one that's prompting all of the colors you're seeing here across the west. Now watch what happens to that trough. That trough, remember, sends out one shortwave here that's got that negative tilt to it. So this is the system that's going to go straight into Canada. All right, that one's going to race to the north pretty quickly. What I'm watching is next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So this would be like the 4th, 5th, and 6th. We've watched the evolution of this next system slow down. Now, why that's important is I was already talking about next 5th, 6th, 7th, seeing a big front that sweeps across the United States, and now that trough is over the west. And here's what I like about it. We end up getting a pattern to do this with a large ridge poking in here. And what I like is this is a trough that leaves the southern Rockies, leaves the Great Basin, comes out into Texas and Oklahoma, and may be on a normal speed. So what am I talking about? There's Friday, next Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday. Now that's nice. That's a 3-day low going across the country. and it's got that great look to it. I mean, this is what we put this in textbooks. These lows that come off the mountains use the downslope coming off the Rockies to help with cyclogenesis, the formation of a low, and tap into Gulf moisture and move. And so that one's through the 11th going up the East Coast. And then we see following it, there's not a whole lot that's broken the pattern away. So again, trough, ridge, trough, ridge, trough. See that? And so we have another system coming through here and could have more coming out of the Aleutian Islands, the Bering Sea, this part of the North Pacific. The pattern is still remaining quite active through the middle part of this month. So what do we do with all of it? Let's break them all down here. This is by 8 o'clock this morning, getting through the middle of the day. You can see that snow coming out with the first system here into Texas. Going to watch for some showers and storms in the south, and we're going to watch that move into better moisture as it gets over the lower Mississippi River Valley. Talked about it all week. It took that high getting off the coast to return that flow. And we're going to watch maybe, just maybe, a little bit of a chance for snow to sweep through this area on the northern side of this. It's not much, but you can see it right there. This is through Friday morning, getting into Friday midday, and once we get into Friday evening, a lot of good wet weather moving into North Carolina and Virginia. Now, why I say good? That's an area that's missed it. We need to get the moisture into this area. All right, which one of these tabs was out? There we go. Now, meanwhile, look at the west. So just take you back here. Watch the western United States through the rest of today, getting into early tomorrow morning, playing this out through tomorrow night on Friday night and into early Saturday. Not only are we dealing with strong winds, but just flow perpendicular to the Sierra Nevada mountains. And this is just the first of a few systems that's going to pack in quite a bit of snow for much of the western United States. Now, to see that kind of in longer term, we're going to do like we always do. I'm going to show you the comparison of the models. We'll look at the precipitation, and then we'll go to the probability maps. So here we go. Same time frame as I just showed you a moment ago, but now comparing the GFS left and European right through Friday into early Saturday morning. So this is 6 a.m. Saturday morning. Now we know that low that's going through the west, the trough position, is pretty negatively tilted, right? It was doing something like this. So this low comes out and rolls straight toward the Canadian prairie. Got to watch this for Montana's sake, and then parts of Saskatchewan, Manitoba, parts of Ontario really grabbing some good snow. There will be a windy setup in the midsection of the country this weekend here, and there will be a front that comes through. Can you see it? Right in through there. That will bring some moisture, but that's not a soaker. What we'll wait for is next Tuesday, as that front lingers, to be kind of linking up with this very weak, but it's there, trough that goes through the south. And that front, as it slides through now, is bringing in some moisture, but not nearly as strong as what I was expecting when I put this forecast idea out earlier this week. Now, the good news is we bring in more rain to the southeast and up the east coast where we do need it. You see it over here in the European model, and that's out a week. But what will be interesting is to watch what follows it. So next Thursday and Friday, there will be something cooking on the 7th, 8th, and 9th. That's when that next slow-moving trough comes in and brings moisture far enough back to the west. I think we actually start to work against some of those drought areas. It's not drought curing, but there should be something there. The GFS is faster than the European with that next Thursday. That's the 7th, 8th, and 9th system rolling through. Okay? That's the models compared to one another. Adding up the precip from the Euro, here is 7 days. There we go. Heaviest rains here in the south, possibly in the mid-south and Ohio Valley, and the biggest is going to be in the west. We still leave this large area missing this flow in the near term because the one low slides south, the next low rips to the north, and we're going to see that final one that we just saw in the next 7 days get here. It's the one that's coming after this, 7th, 8th, and 9th that fills in this area. So watch. Here's the European solution. See it trying to fill that in? 7th, 8th, and 9th right there. I'm keeping an eye on this spot. Okay, how about the GFS out a week? Remember, we're going to watch to see if we can fill this in after the 7th, 8th, and 9th. Now, the GFS is not as aggressive on filling that in, but the GFS is very aggressive on the western United States for snow. So let's grab a look at that snow. Here is the European adding it up, and that is through 7 days. So there's that chance. Still have our lake effect this morning. Big snows in parts of Alberta, but really Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And then look at the Cascades, the northern Rockies here in the Sierra Nevada. Wow, we need this big time. GFS has got it as well. So from here, this will be a map we'll watch change over the next 7 days. And the improvements I'm expecting to see in this region. we're doing okay most of the rest of the Western Mountains. Doing okay. I like this. A lot of numbers in the Sierra Nevadas in the 80 to 105% range. In the Great Basin, Colorado Basin, good. This is good. We need more, but we're not, I would just say we're not desperate at this point. We don't need a miracle March, or what do they call it, an amazing April. We're not as desperate for them, I guess is what I would say. All right, so here's some probability maps. That's the chance of an inch over the next 10 days. This is the chance of 3 inches. Here is 6. Look at that. Good snow coming in here. And then it's all about the Western Mountains. That's 12. That's 18. That's 24 and 36. You know I love doing this, but I'd love to see these amounts coming through here. Now, on the drier side of it, over the next week, this is the area that gets missed, but watch. Remember, the 7th, 8th, and 9th. There it is. That's the area that's getting reduced in terms of its risk of being very, very dry as we park this out there around 10 days. On the wetter side of it, here's the best chance of getting an inch. So it's the southeast and up along the east coast, and then, of course, out in the west, 2 inches. Models have improved these numbers down here across the southeast. And where I want to see the gap really get filled in is right in through this area along the Carolinas into Virginia and the mid-Atlantic. And then up to 4, our highest probabilities here, but we've now seen the models increase this down here along the Gulf Coast. So again, these maps are to show you what we're working against, which is this. All right. From there, that week 2 outlook, we've got the CPC with the most aggressive on the 7th, 8th, and 9th system. And that I wanted to show you that compared to the other 2 models. All right, temperature-wise, today, major rebound in temperatures in the midsection of the country. Look at this. You're going to watch that really go into Friday as the coldest air leaves parts of the southeast. In fact, we can go look at the min temperatures real quick. I should have pulled this up. Friday morning, Thursday, Friday. I'm looking for any risk of really cold air that's coming into this area, simply because of how mild we've been. So min temperatures here first today. Look at that. That's Sunday's minimum temperatures. 50s in Iowa. Okay. Here's another thing to be on the lookout for. Next Monday, Central Valley getting down in the mid-30s. All right, let's go back to the max if you don't mind. Here's tomorrow's max temperature, sorry. This is getting into Saturday and Sunday. Wow. It's going to be windy, but in the 70s, almost 80. 81 in Kansas City. That's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Cold west, mild central and east. That's kind of the pattern. And it lasts for a while. If you're curious, that map I just showed you gives us this, which is our next 7 days of growing degree day accumulation. So this is using a base of 50 and a max of 86. Day 5 through 10 keeps the pattern alive, and so does day 10 through 15. Now, what we are most concerned about is anything that will redistribute this cold air and bring it back into just a stripe across North America. And when is the West going to break away warm? So to talk about that, I want to give you the latest update from the European extended forecast. So this is week 3, and we're out there. That takes us to the 20th of March. And there are some signs continuing to show up in the model that we are going to drop cooler air into the southeast at some point in late March, early April. Now, what's important to know about this is that cooler air in April in this area is not cold. And it's just something I have to keep an eye on to see if we can get an unfortunate and late frost event here. But I want you to know it's still in the models. Now, what could make this wrong, what could really make this miss, is if the MJO fails to get out in the Pacific Ocean, just as one example. But let's go from here over to the precipitation maps. Let's do a 30-day outlook through early April. We continue to see this same kind of setup we've been talking about for weeks in the forecast. So I like it. MJO, all right, popping out over here into 345. We've questioned all week if it's going to make the loop, and I don't think it will. I think you're going to see a repeat of this action going forward. It's very difficult to break fully into the Western Pacific when we have the ocean temperature configuration the way it is. And even the newest day 10 through 15 velocity potential, in other words, where the rising motion is, doesn't take it away from like 3, 4, 5, and 6. It doesn't keep sweeping it out here into the open Pacific. That's critical. Now, where that's going to show up is in our global precipitation patterns. So, for example, the influence of the MJO right now is driving all of this wet weather in parts of the outback. Now, I need you to know this is not hitting key growing areas in Western Australia or Queensland. Better rains in New South Wales, but just that heavy rain is in the outback. It's in the desert part of Australia. From there, still wet in Western Europe, drier in Eastern. And then let's have a quick look at South America a little more in depth here by showing you first the newest root zone soil moisture maps. So you know that my big concern is that we get into a drier time period in the Brazil center-west growing areas. And right now, according to Grace, we're already kind of depleted for longer-term moisture. So this is keeping track of moisture. So you're seeing the reflection of the drought from October, November, December here. We're wetter in the northeast, and notice most of Argentina's growing areas are not in drought right now. You look out over the next 10 days, this continues to be a drier area. That is called Brazil's center-west growing region. We're wetter here, and we're wetter in northern Argentina, a little drier in Buenos Aires as an example, though. And if you just look out longer term, I've been showing you the European long range. There is a GFS version of this as well. And for completeness, just notice that it is trying to bring in a drier tongue of air throughout March into that region as well. So we're concerned about the safrinha crops getting enough moisture to do well in March and April and early May before the monsoon is done. And just for completeness, I want to show you, I was worried about the United States going over cooler with the European extended. This is the GFS extended for that same time period, and does that not look the same? Okay, and then if we look at the 7-day temperatures, it also is trying to bring in some cooler air at the end of March into parts of the southeast. So we will watch this transition. We're going to keep a close eye on when we maybe start to see some planting windows open up for a big section of the Midwest and the Southeast. But with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Appreciate your attention and extra time today. We'll talk again tomorrow. Thanks.